Cox family weirdness and some of the bizarre family culture that kind of gave us some hints as to maybe where Lori would end up one day. So welcome to True Crime, Faith, and Chocolate. I am your host, Annette Lyon, woman of faith, true crime junkie, and USA Today bestselling author of the suspense novel Just One More and a whole bunch of other stuff. And today, like I said, we are talking the Cox family. That's Lori's family and some of their freaky stuff. Things that you may not have heard or things people have asked me about. And a lot of this is based on Lori's cousin's interview with Hidden True Crime. I would definitely recommend watching the whole thing on that. It's with Megan Connor, spelled M-E-G-A-N, but pronounced Megan. And she has some fascinating insights. So here are some of the highlights of that. I will be sure to link to that in the description below. So yeah, some of what Megan shared is kind of, it's telling. Let's just say that. And it goes to show that Lori was already Lori before she met Chad. And yeah, she was not a victim here. That they fed off of each other. Megan talks about how visiting her Cox cousins was lots of fun. They would do that in the summers a lot in California. They were the fun family. They were definitely not as strict as far as Latter-day Saint standard stuff as Megan's family was. I've read Megan's memoir / self-help book, and it's very well done. I feel terrible for her. Some of the crap that she went through a ton. Go read it. It's some horrifying stuff. I will say that prior Latter-day Saint culture may have fed into that. So she blames a lot of things on the church that I don't think are entirely fair. People have used faith as an excuse for bad behavior a lot, of course, through decades and centuries. And I feel horrible that she was taught certain things and believed certain things when that is absolutely not what we are supposed to believe and do. That said, she would go out and visit her Cox family in California, and they were the fun family. But at the same time, she said there were a lot of arguments and volatility, and she wasn't used to that at home either. I guess I don't know for sure, but it sounded like in her family, maybe it was more of the passive-aggressive type thing, and then in the Cox family, it was more in your face, and not in a healthy way. So both families had unhealthy ways of managing problems. Megan talks about Janice, that is Lori's mother. There's been some talk about how the Cox family is very big about appearances. We have to make sure everything looks good and looks right. We'll also talk about Stacy's death and some of the weirdness surrounding that. So you'll definitely want to tune in on that part because, yeah, now that we know what we know about Lori and some of the family, maybe Stacy's death wasn't just an accidental diabetic coma. Apparently, Janice was known, and Megan observed this, witnessed it herself, Janice taking bites of food and then spitting them out, saying, "I don't need to swallow, I just need to taste it." That's disturbing. That is setting the stage for EDs for your children and your daughters especially. That's messed up. That's messed up. But the family culture, again, was always based on how you appeared. Appearance was everything, and therefore they would spend hours in the morning getting ready, and Megan was not used to that. She's like, I'd get dressed and take a brush to my hair and call it good, and they were primping in the bathroom for hours. There were even things to the point of, oh, well, you'll get more attention if you wear that dress. That was meaning you should wear it. For me, I'd be like, I'm going to get more attention. I think I'll wear the other one, thanks. But that's the introvert in me. And then she talked about some of the inappropriate comments that came from her cousins. Like one time they were getting ready to go to the swimming pool, and Lori said, oh, well, you're going to have to shave down below because you're in puberty now and things happen down there. But then she said, make sure you don't shave at all, though, because then boys won't want to you. And Megan's like, excuse me, what now? Like, and how would you know that? Why are we talking about that? What? Barry, the father, he and Janice were somewhat inappropriate in their conversation. That one time he referred to Lori's flat chest as looking like fried eggs, and then he paid for her to have plastic surgery there so that she could then be part of pageants and have the chest she wanted. Okay. Other inappropriate things. Apparently on Sundays, it was well known that Barry and Janice would go take a nap, and everyone kind of knew that they weren't just taking a nap, they were doing other things, but the children would talk openly about what their parents were doing and speculate about specifics. I'll leave that there. But again, Megan's like, this is not comfortable or appropriate. Can we talk about something else? Why are we talking about your parents' bedroom life? Let's not do that. It's kind of creepy. So we're already seeing that Lori grew up in a home with very odd boundaries. Very odd boundaries. This is not normal. Barry would come out with these weird gospel doctrinal pontificating lectures for the family, and the whole family was just kind of a captive audience. They had to kind of just sit there and listen to him. It was a little disturbing to Megan as well, because they would be very judgmental of other people, how they looked, how smart they were or were not, how Janice and Barry were temple workers, meaning they were volunteers that would help with the ordinances. So in theory, they're supposed to be some of those who were like aspiring to be more righteous or aspiring to be better, and yet here they're judging other people. That's really upsetting to me, because yeah, you assume that when you go to the temple, no one's going to be judging you. That's one of the big things, is that when we go to the temple, you change out of your nice street clothes, in theory, like your Sunday best that you would show up in, into white clothing, so that everybody is equal. Everybody's supposed to be the same. And this is a loving place where no one judges you. That if, like, I had a friend who traveled across the country and was eager to attend a certain temple, and then her luggage got lost, and she didn't have the dress she had planned to wear. So she went in wearing jeans, because that's all she had. That was the best she had on her. And not a single temple worker judged her. They said, "We're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming." And that's how it's supposed to be. You know, whatever your best is in that moment, that's what you're offering. But apparently Barry liked to talk about the lower 95. What he meant by that is that most of the population is ugly and stupid and whatever other adjectives, and but their family is not part of the lower 95. They are the top 5. They are smart. They are intelligent. And whatever else he decided to judge that made them better than everybody else. Okay, pride's a sin, dude, thinking you're better than other people. One time when she was out with Lori and 2 boys, Lori had a boyfriend, and then she was double dating with some other guy that she wasn't dating, but it was a double date. As they're driving along, Lori's boyfriend, he sees a cat on the street and then purposely runs over it. And they even stopped to make sure it was dead. So let's review. What kind of personality is the one that actually kills animals and doesn't care? Yeah, portent of what is to come. Gross. Megan specifically said that Lori was lovely and nice as long as you were on her side. And if she ever felt that you were going against her or didn't agree with her or were going to tell on her or whatever, she would turn, and this is Megan's word, vicious. And I absolutely 100% believe it, because Lori was lovely and cute in her outward mask, but behind that mask was a very ugly human, as we know. Megan, as an adult, young adult, she ends up moving into an apartment with Lori and her brother Adam. So Lori had 2 brothers, Adam and Alex. Alex is the one who was the hitman, basically. Adam is the one who saw that Lori's going off the deep end and tried to get help with Charles. And so Adam has more of a head on his shoulders. We have Adam, Lori, and Megan sharing an apartment, I believe in San Antonio. Lori was working at a tanning salon, got a job from Megan there. And apparently there was some guy who came in. I don't know if he was a client, customer, or if he was a part-time worker or what he was, but he had been there frequently enough, and Lori showed absolutely no interest in this guy. But And Megan knew that. Lori's like, oh yeah, I'm not interested in him. But then he asked Megan out on a date. And Megan is thinking, well, Lori is not interested. Fair game, right? Not so much with a sociopathic narcissist. Lori flipped out. Absolutely lost her mind that Megan would go out on a date with this guy that she purportedly did not care about. Because that makes sense for a narcissistic sociopath. Up to that point, apparently Adam, Lori, and Megan were all kind of having a partying up lifestyle. Adam was over 21 and was providing them with alcohol, I believe weed, maybe something else. She wasn't all that specific, but, doing things that, good little Latter-day Saint young people aren't supposed to be doing, but nothing completely crazy either. But as soon as Megan agrees to go on a date with this young man, Lori starts telling her mother about how Megan is a bad influence and she's doing all these bad things and listing them out. Forget the fact that Adam's the only one who was old enough to buy alcohol. They basically kicked her out. No one talked about it. Janice didn't stick up for her anything, didn't ask any questions, and Megan's own parents didn't ask any questions or stick up for their own daughter. What the crap? But apparently in this family, no one talks about stuff. I guess that's not a huge surprise. It doesn't look good. So let's just kind of get this cousin out of the way in case she is the problem. Pretend that our kids are the perfect little angels and blame it all on Megan. And that was kind of the end of their relationship for some time until Megan gets married. Being the nice person cousin that she was, she thinks, oh, maybe I should have Lori be one of my bridesmaids, even though we haven't really talked since she kicked me out of her apartment. Which says a lot more about Megan's kind heart than Lori. Now, one of Megan's colors for her wedding was purple. And so she wanted her bridesmaids to be wearing purple dresses. Lori goes out shopping for their bridesmaids' dresses. Lori comes home and says, we couldn't find purple. So we got these dresses instead. Now, mind you, they were blue, and you could argue that certain shades of blue can look purple. Not these. Just take a look. Not these. These were royal blue, bright, in-your-face electric blue. Blue, 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 blue. And that's just how it worked. Lori liked this dress, so that's what the bridesmaids wore. Who cares that this is Megan's wedding and not what she wanted for her colors? Again, narcissist much? Okay. Then going back to Barry and Janice, apparently there were rumors of both Barry and Janice having affairs on each other, which would be grounds for excommunication. And so if that's true, they shouldn't have been darkening the door of a temple, let alone volunteering to do work inside. No. Just no. Something else that is grounds for excommunication, and as I said before, the church does not speak on excommunication. The only times we know for sure is if somebody confirms or denies who happens to be in the know. I would love to know if Barry has been excommunicated, because this next bit is grounds as well. He was convicted of a felony, at least one. I'm not sure how many, but he did time for tax evasion. Like Al Capone. Great company to keep there. He also was convicted of practicing law without a license. Now, this gem of a man wrote a book, self-published a book. Let me tell you about it. Oh my gosh. It has 2 reviews as of today in this recording, and has a 1.6 average on the stars between the 2 reviews. So there's that. So this is what the book is called. It is called How the American Public Can Dismantle the IRS. The subtitle is a bit of a mouthful. It is Learn How the IRS is a Criminal Organization which must be abolished as a matter of law. Okay. No, taxes are something that every country needs to be able to do basic things like have a fire department and like build roads and have a police force and very basic things. Schools, libraries. Let me read some of the description of the book. This book is dedicated to the inspired ideals promised to the free people of the United States of America. Our patriot and paladin immigrant ancestors vigorously promulgated and selflessly defended these laws against the imperial British tyrant and despotic government propaganda of King George III in 1775, who more than self their country loved. This book presents critical information for all freedom-loving USA citizens to consider. In order to have truth and justice, it is important to protect our cherished rights, and that's in all caps, that are published in our nation's inalienable Declaration of Independence, U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights. And I'm going to say Bill of Rights, dude, that's part of the Constitution, doofus. And codes. It says, and then in brackets it says IRC of the United States of America. Foremost, this book debunks the myths of the federal income tax, which is part of the Constitution now. It's part of one of the amendments, again, you doofus, and exposes the illegal origin and evil purpose of the Internal Revenue Service. That's Barry Cox, folks. So I sincerely hope he's been excommunicated. He has no business being... No. Megan talks a bit about Alex's car accident. We don't know much about it, but she says that he walked away from it. It sounds like they didn't report it. They didn't have insurance to cover it, but in their family, no one takes accountability for anything. And that there are rumors, I've heard it from her and others, that Alex may have sustained a traumatic brain injury from that accident, and that may have prevented him from really maturing into adulthood, because he would have been probably 16 or 17, a young, newly driving teenager. Does that absolve him of anything? No. It might help explain some things if it's true. We don't know. But what we do know is that when Lori's sister Stacy was getting a divorce from her husband Steve Cope, Stacy and Steve are the parents of Melanie, often referred to as a Melanice, Lori's niece. And she later married Brandon Boudreaux, who he was shot at by Alex. Fortunately lived, but his attempted murder is one of the ones Lori is awaiting trial for in Arizona, because Melanie drank the Kool-Aid and is following her Aunt Lori into whatever. So Stacy died. She had adult onset type 1 diabetes, died when Melanie was about 6 years old. And then from that point looked to Lori as a mother figure, although I'm curious about part of it because Steve got full custody. Summer, one of the other Cox sisters, Summer Shiflett, she is now, has come out and said some pretty awful things about him, which I take with a grain of salt, essentially blaming Steve for being this horrible human. And, you know, defending her sister is one thing, but if he is concerned about his daughter's well-being, being in contact with his family of his ex-wife, I don't blame him for necessarily keeping his daughter away from them. But I am curious as to how that affected her relationship with Lori and at what point they became very close, because Lori would even refer to Melanie as her daughter and believe that Melanie had been her daughter in a past life. Yeah, I don't know at what point she was able to reestablish that contact. Was it when she turned 18? Did her dad loosen up a little bit? I don't know. Let's go into some of the just peachy stuff when it comes to the divorce and death of Stacy. This is a letter that Barry wrote to the court. He says, "My name is Barry L. Cox. I make this declaration in support of Stacy Cope's motion for primary residential care of her daughter Melanie." And there's typos. He spells Melanie wrong. He spells care wrong. "My firstborn child is my daughter, Stacy L. Cope. I am practicing financial planner with a BS and MS degree from Brigham Young University and a Juris Doctorate from Citrus Belt Law School. I am 54 years of age. My daughter, Stacy Cope, married Stephen Cope about 8 years ago, and they have one daughter, Melanie Cope, now age 6 years. During the period of their marriage, I've taken Steve, Stacy, and Melanie on vacations to Hawaii. Apparently this family has a lot. They love Hawaii, as we know with Lori. Always bought their airplane tickets, rooms, food, always whatever incidental expenses they bought. Disneyland, Mossbury Farm, the zoo. Anyway, taken to Disneyland, so I'm not sure why any of that matters So good job, dude. Here he's talking about, I warned Steve at one point that his absence and his estranged attitude for his wife would lead to problems. I told him, and this is so incredibly offensive to me, I told him that a wife was like a delicate flower and needed to have tender love and care, that a husband was like a gardener who needed to provide nurturing care to see the flower flourish and bear fruit. He was indifferent to my suggestions. I could tell from his response that he did not want to be reminded of his spousal or parental responsibilities for Stacy or Melanie. Over the last few months, Steve's interest was ambivalent and inconsistent. Steve is basically a construction worker type with a limited mentality for things of delicacy or a sensitive emotional nature. He is very good with building, lumber, and construction-oriented things, but his ability to understand medicine, disease, or deal with family or financial matters is limited and or below the average. For example, my daughter graduated from BYU with the highest honors in her chosen field. Steve, a major in construction management, never did graduate because he could not pass the required basic math classes. So basically, women are small, little, delicate flowers. But Stacy, at least, was not part of the lower 95, and Steve is. Classy. These are some court papers. Talking about Dr. Spratt, so one of Stacy's doctors, then treating her, offered incidents that worried me. This is Steve talking. Stacy had asked a nurse how much insulin she would have to take to go into an insulin coma and die. Stacy soon became quite open with me. On or about May 21st, 1995, judging from my long-distance phone bill, she called me on the telephone and she said words to the effect of, Steve, I've done everything that I can. I've talked to Barry and Janice, and we agree. It's my time to go. Now, if she said this, all I can think is that Janice and Barry, you schmucks. You don't tell your daughter, oh, you've done a lot. It's time for you to go. You're just a burden on the family. It's time for you to go. If she said that. She then solicited my input on it. On May 22nd, she called and said words to the effect of, I have no hope. I have no faith. If I have to get another A-line, I'll tell them I just can't do it. I can't hang on anymore. If I don't make it, you'll know what happened. I've given it my best shot. That's alarming. And then we have, although I do cook our evening meals and have attempted to keep the house stocked with food, Stacy made it a habit to return to the store virtually all the food I had purchased. Often when I have gone to the pantry in preparation for cooking a meal, I have found that there's literally nothing there, although I had just gone shopping. So Melanie has become the caretaker for her mother, believing that she is responsible for her mother. Stacy has only one other close friend in Washington. This is just horrifying. So eating disorder up the wazoo here, no question. And probably not helped by her mother. Her mother's example when she was younger. And now she has type 1 diabetes. She's probably terrified of sugar, to be honest, and terrified of becoming fat. And also, Melanie has become the caretaker for her mother, that she believing that she is responsible for her mother. Melanie was 6. Like, no child should be thinking that. So incredibly messed up. Stacy admitted to me and others that her family was a psychological hornet's nest. She had admitted that her father was diagnosed as schizophrenic. And then her mother, Janice Cox, is obsessed with issues of weight, physical appearance, and feminine bodies. You think? Stacy now blames the origin of her problems on food, although it is clear that they originated because of her refusal to administer her insulin program on any consistent basis. Her mother has always been obsessive about any weight gain and about issues of food intake. Again, not a surprise. It goes on. In the middle of last year, Stacy began fearing sugar, which makes sense, again, if you're diabetic. Foods and germs. Melanie's toys must be rubbed down with alcohol periodically. See, periodically is not a concern for me. Periodically, especially if you're dealing with, snotty-nosed toddlers or whatever. That's not a bad thing. And especially if any other children use them. Although I love swimming, I participated on my school swim teams and want Melanie to enjoy swimming. Stacy will not allow her to swim in pools. The germs are there. Our toilet must be alcoholed regularly, rubbed down with cotton balls of alcohol, and Melanie cannot use public facilities. There's germs there. Stacy, it sounds like she has developing some kind of OCD tendencies, which goes hand in hand with EDs. Not a surprise. Stacey's problems are psychological as well as physical in cause, but she denies both. Stacey has admitted to me, as well as to others, that all the various doctors who have dealt with her endocrine problems have told her that she needs psychiatric help as well. No surprise, I'm sure. The family doesn't want to deal with psychiatrists, especially if Barry has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and won't get treatment. That's a problem, folks. As I said before, I have a dear friend who has schizophrenia, and he lives a great life because he does medicate and he has taken care of things. That there are ways to do this, guys. So those are some of the documents, court and custody issues, which understandably, yeah, there's some big concerns there. But you know, some of the stuff makes me go, yeah, this is the family culture. Duh. Quickly, we'll just touch on Stacey's death, which people have asked about, and Megan goes into a little bit. She said that even at the time she thought it was suspicious, even then as a young woman. The whole family, up except for Alex, they up and went to Hawaii on a trip, leaving Stacey behind at the family house. She weighed 76 pounds, was very ill, could not take care of herself, and then the family just goes, oh, peace out, well, we're going to Hawaii. Megan has her own apartment. Alex comes over to watch a movie, which that was not particularly unusual, it sounds like. But while he's there, he goes, oh, he gets kind of uncharacteristically quiet and says, I'm worried about Stacey. Let's go check on her. So Megan goes, okay. Megan and Alex head over and they find her in I believe, the parents' bedroom, unresponsive on the bed. They call 911. They are told to do CPR. Alex refuses to do CPR, like he did with Charles, and like Zulema's son refused to do on Alex himself. So, you know, keeping it classy, guys. Megan says that she, in hindsight, remembers Barry giving Stacey morphine and now wonders why. At the time, she didn't know what morphine was for. Now she's like, why would you be giving your daughter morphine? That is bizarre. She is brought in a diabetic coma to the hospital. And the family in Hawaii, they're notified right away. And they're like, well, she's in a coma. What good is it for us to hurry home? No one came home. And there's Megan, this young woman. Her cousin here is in a coma. And what do? She calls her parents. Her parents step in and help figure crap out. As Stacey ends up having to go to hospice, they contact Steve. And he was able to bring Melanie in to say goodbye to her mother. Stacey dies just a couple of hours after that goodbye, but no one came to help. It was up to Megan to take care of things. Like, what the heck? The family did not come back. Janice didn't come back while Stacey was in the coma before she died. Alex starts using Stacey's credit cards for fun stuff, not for like, oh, I have to pay the utility bill, but buying random crap for himself. And Megan's like, what are you doing? And he says, oh, I don't think she would mind. Okay, no. And then Megan says that no one knew for years that Janice and Barry had Stacey cremated. They thought her body was buried under this headstone for years. And that it was so incredibly disturbing to find out that they had cremated her without telling anybody. And as I have said before, U.S. culture is when we tend to embalm rather than cremate, and LDS culture is very much so as well. There's nothing against cremation. It's just very unusual. And so to have a family so obsessed with appearance to choose cremation seems odd to me. That seems suspicious. Especially, I don't know, it seems like maybe they wanted to make sure that no one could find out how she really died. And they said that people were talking about her cause of death. Did she do this to herself? That there were whisperings that she had a blood alcohol level that was pretty high at the time of her death. Who knows? Maybe she did this to herself. And Megan says, and she doesn't know whether to believe this now because her faith system has completely changed. I tend to think this might be real, but not just her subconscious saying things. But she had a dream the day before Stacey died that Stacey came to her and said, I did nothing to hurt myself. Which I think is, while she's in a coma, this is what's happening. But the idea that Barry and Janice had told her, maybe it's time for you to go. Maybe it's time for you to go. That's so incredibly messed up. I can't even. Maybe I'll share Summer's Facebook post that she posted on the anniversary of Stacey's death. Essentially, she's defending the family image again. That no, there was no eating disorder. Our family is great. Steve's the evil one, keeping Melanie away from us, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, Megan just reiterates everything surrounding the family's identity is the truth can be threatening. Appearance matters above all. Appearance matters more than even truth. And yeah, that kind of sums up Lori. This is where Lori came from. This is the family of origin where Lori grew up, and her sociopathic narcissistic tendencies got to flourish and bloom. And she learned how to manipulate and get attention and have appearance matter more than anything else. So, if you're still here, watch the whole thing. Thank you for watching to the end. Please consider giving a like and a subscribe, hitting the notification bell, and all that good stuff. It really, really helps people find the channel. I have a lot of other cases I'm planning on diving into soon. If you have any further questions about the Daybell case that you're interested in, let me know. I have a top 10 that I'm planning on doing of like little known things that you may not know or may have missed. And so I'm going to be talking about some of that with Annie Cushing's videos, with Hermosillo's interview that he did with Gigi recently, and a bunch of other stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned. And in the meantime, go get yourself something sweet.